Hello kids, and welcome back. This is part 23 in this series, and I've actually given this one a name. This one should be called Pulling Yourself Up by Your Bootstraps. And what I mean by that is a reference to, to the idea, anyway, that some people, I guess, use this expression, you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And that is, in fact, that's true. You can't do that. It's physically impossible. However, there once lived a very intelligent individual on this planet whose name was Archimedes. And he had a quote that went like this. This quote was, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world." And what he means by that, essentially, is that there's no limit to how much force you can apply to something, given that you have any sort of leverage. And that also is true. So you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but if you have tiny little leverage, any small advantage whatsoever, then it is possible for you to pull yourself up by almost your bootstraps. In fact, every time you turn on your computer, it does go through something that has become named booting up. And it is, in fact, a pretty good analogy to the idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. When the computer starts up, it really has very little. And every time you turn it on, it goes through this little act where it pulls itself up with a tiny little bits of lever after lever to get to the point where you're finally running Windows or something. Now, as far as how that relates to what we have so far in the series, not in the world, we have developed a little program that can convert to cases of characters. And I still have it here to upper.com. And I can do things like this. It converts the file to uppercase. You can do other things too, by the way. I can do that. So I've also got, my program also has a more feature, if you like. I could also do font. I guess I'm missing a parameter. See? In this case, I certainly don't need to specify whether or not it's a case-insensitive search. That's already going to be an uppercase search. But the thing is that we have a tiny little program, only 73 bytes, and it can do quite a few things. Now what I would like to add to this program is the ability to do the opposite, let's say, to go from uppercase back to lowercase. And I've already done this on my own to make sure that it works and everything. And what that's going to involve is looking at the looking at the command line. And I think I explained to you last time. To upper is some command. Okay. the command line winds up in this program segment prefix starting at position 80. We're told how long it is, and there always appears to be a space here, so there's another wasted character, and it always ends up with a character turn. And what I'd like to be able to do, for instance, is be able to say /L, and that would mean lowercase, or L, an insensitive comparison. Now that's easy enough to do. There's only one possibility, right? Let's see if that's true. Now, in this case, there's going to be a slash at position 82, and then little l or a big L at position 83. Okay, so little l. And same thing. I wonder if I add some spaces to this. Should still work in this case. Well, see now, over here, 80, and now it's not there. It's way over here. So if we just simply went ahead and tried to test for /L here, well, it wouldn't work if somebody put some extra spaces in there. You might say, well, why should they put extra spaces in there anyway? Just tell them don't put any spaces. The problem is, sometimes if you're making things like batch files or something, you might be automating something, and it may come up that part of the thing you're automating involves running this program, and if this isn't being typed in by a person, it might be a parameter from somewhere else, or maybe read in from a text file or something, so you don't know, and you can't really control that bit. So essentially we're running into the problem of parsing command lines. And if you've ever tried to do anything with parsing command lines, then you know that that is not an easy task. Let me give you an example. This should also work. However, you'll notice now there are quotation marks here. This should also work. And again, the quotation marks have done something. If there were more than one parameter we wanted to pass in, let's say a flag and a word, here's one way it could come up. Just a simple case. Could be reversed, but you know, we could specify, no, the flags have to come first. But still, who says I can't do it like that? And now it's different again. With a whole bunch of spaces. Worse, there could be quotes. Exclamation points. And all kinds of things that you don't normally have to deal with, because when you're writing a C program, this business of parsing the command line is done for you. Most of it's done for you before you even get to the main. But we don't have that luxury here. We're going to have to do it ourselves. Now, what that means is, that means that we need to start adding things to our toolbox. We need a bigger toolbox. our toolbox doesn't consist of very much at the moment. Here's the actual program. Ludwig. I had to regenerate this. This is essentially what we typed in by hand. Now, this can be turned back into a program using the trick I showed you last time, of piping it into debug. So we can take text files like this and turn them into programs. But that leaves us with several difficulties. For one thing, often there are labels or function names or something that we reuse. You know, like this 100 here refers to main. So it would be good. It would be great if we could just say jump to main. That would be good. It would be good if we could give these sorts of things a textual meaning, so that we could understand more clearly what's going on when we're reading this. You know, what does loop 13c mean exactly? And where's 13c? Well, originally this did have 13c in it, but I took that out. Because if we're going to be writing this by hand, there won't be any 13c. All we can use is labels. Okay. Back to the bootstrapping. So, I had the idea that maybe we could make a very rudimentary compiler just using the batch script files. So I did, in fact, manage to make a very rudimentary compiler using the debug program together with the piping stuff, so that you could type something with symbols and so on and turn it into a program, although there are several steps that you have to do by hand, but many fewer steps than normal. Now, this brings us into the wonderful when it works, but usually infuriating world of batch files. I won't go through all of the things that went wrong with this, because that just takes too much time. There's a lot of stuff. There are many features to this command prompt. And one of the commands that comes with it, which I use a lot, is this one called for. Now this command, as much as this command is like an operating system all in 3 letters, it does so many different things and has so many options that you always wind up finding that you come back to it because there's no other way to do something. And so there's going to be a lot of use of this. And the problem with for is that it has certain behaviors that, even though that I don't think are really documented in this help. I might not have read thoroughly enough through the help. I have a problem with that. I get frustrated reading through this kind of help, and I miss all the little details, so it could be usually my fault. But I have to use for certain things. I'm going to give you an example of a use for. No, not this one. It's something where I always have to use it. Oh, for instance, if you want to do something to all of the files in some directory, let's say, I don't know, and run something I'm working with. Not that. Well, here's a directory anyway. Here we are. Suppose I wanted to put just for whatever reason, I wanted to put one underscore in front of all of these files here. Then I have a batch file which does that. And hopefully I still have it. Let me just, it might only be for JPEGs. Yeah, only for JPEGs. I can change that. Add a J there. Oh, well, let's make it PNG, because there's I saw some PNGs in there. Okay, this should do the same thing. I was working with JPEGs at the time, and so I made this batch file to quicken some things up. So I go prep 1 underscore. Now see, all the PNG things now have a 1 underscore thing. And then I found that I had been adding these 1 underscores to a bunch of files, and then I realized, oh dear, I don't want those. That's a mistake, and I wanted to get rid of them. And then I made another batch file that to remove those things. I think that's called stir-to-gaf or something. Yeah. Stir-to-gaf. I think it's also just for JPEG. Maybe not. Maybe not. It's %1. %2 there. Usage of usage. Examples. Underscore. Tokens file spec. Alright, let's try it. Tokens underscore star.png. Now what this should do is go through every PNG file and cut off everything up to and including an underscore. Let's see if it works. See? So now I was able to undo things that I'd done. And then I could put, now with those two abilities, I could start shuffling things around. I could add numbers, and then I could swap numbers, move things back and forth, just on the basis of these numbers. But the way to do all those sorts of things is using this for. And that's what I was getting to. See, walking through a directory is difficult, especially when you want to do something to a file. you would think maybe you could just, say dir or something. And in fact, dir is what I use. But instead of just saying dir, if you use this for thing and put dir command as the parameter, then for each thing that comes out of this dir, and you always use the bare format, weirdo stuff, you can call a function. And then, so this enables you to make a little function that does whatever it does and apply it to every single file. And if you want to do it recursively, instead of using for has a recursive feature, which I've never figured out, but you can add a /s to this dir. And then you can go recursively through all your files and do the renaming and so on, and all that sort of great stuff. But the other thing is, this doesn't have to be files. It can be strings as well. So it turns out that you can use this thing for parsing strings and for modifying files and etc., etc., etc. And it always becomes a big hassle. But anyway, back to the compiler. I call it CL because CL is the compiler I use for C++. And then I put ASM. ASM. CL ASM as the extension. Now I had a lot of trouble going through this. First thing, well, it's all based, first of all, on that thing where I typed some commands into debug. Remember, if I type this, and then at the end I have a name, or if I knew this size, need an extra enter here. If I knew the size, let's say it was 100 W, and if I type all that in, and I got anything weird from before, if I do this, a different name. Delete me. If I type that into debug, you see, well, I got an error. I got a bunch of errors. Why did I get the error? Oh, because I forgot to put an assemble command. Get out of this? No, close enough. I have to tell it I want to assemble first, and I don't know about these spaces. It shouldn't matter. No, didn't quit though. How do I quit? Yeah. No, let's put another bomb. That bomb, let's put a little new bomb. Q. This is Q. But the whole thing is based on this. This fact that I have successfully created a deleteme.com, which has all the same code that was in this text file. So now, given that if I have a text file, if I could convert it into a form similar to this one, well, this is it here. Convert it into a form like that. Then I can run it through debug, pipe it through debug, write it out, and I've got the barest compiler possible. This is the boot. This is our lever. This is our first lever in building the tool that is going to allow us to build our toolbox, to build a better toolbox. And the better our toolbox becomes, the more and more power we gain. And according to Archimedes, we can move the world. Well, step one, CLASM. Okay, now I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. What set local does, if you don't know anything about batch files, and I would suggest that you learn a little bit. If you don't know anything, learn a little bit and come back to this later and watch it again. Then, and if you've done that, you now know that there is such a thing called environment variables, and you can set them. So like that line there said set silent equals true. Set silent. You notice there is no such environment variable. Now there is such an environment variable. Well, I might as well get rid of them like that. The thing about setting environment variables is that a lot of people are using these environment variables, and you might choose a name that's being used by somebody else for something, and so they added a special keyword that allows you to set environment variables, but only locally while it's running through this batch file. So this will not end up, whatever I put in these environment variables will not maintain themselves in the outside world, and that's a good thing. These are like local variables. First bit is the parameter, the %1 passed in. This is a test to see if nothing got passed in. The reason it looks funny and strange like that is something I explained in my one of my previous tutorials, which I guess I deleted. You're not allowed to compare nothing against something. If you want to see if something is nothing, first you can't use the nothing part. You can't do this. You know, that won't work. But here's the problem. Suppose nothing is passed in, and I try to do this comparison. I get an error. Something was unexpected. I need something on both sides all the time if I'm going to use if. Okay. So I want to check for the condition where nothing has been typed in. So what can I do? This. If I do this, here's the if %1 equals nothing. Syntax incorrect. Maybe if I got rid of the space. Syntax incorrect. You got to put something on both sides if you're going to do a compare. So the simple solution, the simplest possible solution, is just to put a letter here. That works. Now that's a fair comparison, and now that's something that will fail if I actually do pass something in. Alright, this will show you the difference. And to get rid of the mess, this turns off the reprinting of all the commands. So if nothing is passed in, it should go to nothing in and tell us about that, and then finish. Otherwise, it'll pass through here. Something else. Well, we can print out what it was. It's going to take a few lessons, probably. So, didn't pass anything in. I don't know if you heard a beep, but that was my little trick here. That's this little circle. I used some magic trickery, and I'm not telling you how to do it. Now, if I type something after the T, hello there, something called hello was passed in. Now you'll see here's an immediate problem. I passed in hello there, but it only told me that hello was passed in. Well, that's because it thinks there are two things that were passed in, and that's sometimes exactly what you want. But if I didn't want that, how would I deal with that? How would I ever find out how many things were passed in? In fact, it does not tell you. And I won't go through how to get around that problem, but I will tell you that quotation marks will give you both things. Now, here's the problem with that. It's always a problem. Okay, that thing had quotation mark. Now, let's see. I need to find something that's going to get mad at me about. What's happening with that? Certain characters will sometimes cause problems with the quotes. Oh well, yeah, okay. I think I can demonstrate the problem. This is okay for a comparison. But what if I wanted to see if it was nothing, but if it was something and a particular thing? Okay, like hello world. Okay, now I want to check to see if hello world was passed in. So what I'm going to do is I can say if %1 is equal to hello world. Let's see if that works. I can't see what happened here. Something called hello world. Well, that's not nothing. I want to see if this condition is true. %1 equals hello world, go to nothing in. That's weird. It seemed to be okay with that. Okay. This of course won't. This of course now has, well, here we go. Well, that was okay that the other one worked, but now it's taking world to be a command. You see, in the first case, as long as I passed in something with quotes, it's magically put quotes around this and compared the quotes and everything was fine. This will take several episodes. But now I remove the quotes, I'm allowed to type this, and so it gets mad. Okay, so I'm gonna fix it. Alright, I'll put quotes here. Oops. Just to stop the error. Okay, now the answers seem to come out okay. It seems to have not gone to the error. So this condition was true, but now it's not printing out the proper thing here. So it seems like I gotta put quotes around this, but that's not going to help. What I need. Well, let's try this case too. Okay, now we got in trouble again. Now I really did pass it in with quotes, and I got nothing in, which isn't the meaning of this anymore. But I got an error. So you see that there's all this problem with quotes. Now the solution to all these quotation problems is the following. I'm telling you that this is golden information. First, sometimes this has quotes. So you can never do this. This together with this equals bad. Why? Because now it's got too many quotes. But if you put a little wiggle here, that removes the quotes from this. And now I put them back in again. Okay? Now if something does actually have quotes, and you don't know if there's going to be quotes on this side or that side or whatever, or nothing, what you could do is you could put a letter A or whatever you want to cover the case of nothing being passed in. Now with caps. Now this is okay. So we take away the quotes in case they're there. We put something in to make sure it's not nothing, because it'll get mad if you place this anywhere. It gets mad. You gotta have something. And this is all fine. And I'll just leave that there and just tell you that that's why all this stuff looks the way it does. First I'm removing quotes, and I want to check against nothing, so I've got to put quotes just in case there are quotes. Just in case quotes are required, that is, if %1 initially had some spaces, because that's the other problem. If you have quotes and if you have things with spaces and no quotes, you saw like it got mad sometimes. I got to put quotes around it, and therefore I have to put the quotes on the other side. And I used an underscore instead of an A. Okay, that solves that problem. Now, I should probably have quotes around this as well. Why not? What I'm trying to do desperately in this particular section of the batch file is simply determine whether or not I need to add the .asm extension. Now this thing will tell me if there is an extension. However, it has that possibility of being empty. So I need to add something to make it not empty. Now it is possible to make a file. Use Notepad. This is pretty dumb. Where the extension has spaces in it. Okay? So if I want to print out that extension, I do that like this. You're going to see it's going to come out with spaces. See? Now I'm back to the same problem again. I can't have, if there's spaces, it's going to get mad at me because you got to put quotes if there are spaces. If there's quotes, it's going to get mad. So I got to remove the quotes. Then I got to check, make sure that this is, if this thing is nothing, that I put quotations around it. And then put something in, etc., etc., etc. And in the end, if this finally does come out just the letter A, then there's no extension. And then I can add it. Here I don't need to worry about quotes or anything. I'm just appending an extension. And forget about this line. Silence or not. Okay. Now, I've used up too much time already. But I just want to get through the first few lines of this so I don't have to explain it again. I'm going to build the script file in the temp directory. %temp is already on your system. It's a provided environment variable. This wiggle nx gives the name and extension of the first parameter passed in. Then I added all this junk at the end so I don't collide with someone else. And the final output file will be whatever was passed in minus the spaces plus the name with no extension with an obj I decided. And then there's a question about asking whether or not you want to the file overwritten, but that's not important. If not exist as oh, this is if I can't find the file. Okay. This test is asking you if you want to overwrite the output file, and then all I'm doing is at this last step here, telling you what's coming in and what's going to go out, and then it begins the parsing part. And that's what I'll have to go through next time because I wasted too much time explaining you the hell and madness of batch files. Okay, but I'm going to do that right now. So this will be split up.